The fire is slowly dying, and my dear, we're still goodbying. But as long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Okay, folks, here is the last of a load of firewood that I had brought in, and there's a guy named Richard that brings it in a dump truck, a small dump truck. So compared to the situation I had with my Nissan Titan last year, I cut all the wood that we had. I didn't end up buying any of it. I cut it all off the property here, and so anyway, it took me about 6 hours to get a truckload of wood here. That involved cutting it on the property with a chainsaw, and then hauling it up here, splitting what had to be split, getting it stacked and all like that. So anyway, for about 6 hours of work, I could get one truck of wood. That's a 6.5 foot bed, by the way. Now, so far, I found that with Richard and his dump truck, I can get 4 or 6 hours of work, which includes the overtime, and then he basically dumps it here and then I stack it. That's 5 to 6 hours of work total, and I can get the equivalent of 3 of these truckloads, so that same number of hours. I'm paying about $145 per truckload at this point. But anyway, this is the last of the 4th load that I had him to bring in, and this is where I'm stacking it. And according to the pictures that I had of the old wood pile, it was a lot different. It was a little taller, but the content of the wood was just whatever I found here on the property. This here appears to all be hardwoods and oaks and hickory, and there might be a little bit of maple in there, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, I'm stacking this in front of that, and then up around the other side of the house I've got a little bit more. That a friend of mine cut a couple trees down, and there's a couple little logs left over from that over here. But then up around the other side of the house, I've got the rest of that stacked up there. Now it's probably a little green, but it might serve as emergency things toward the end of the season. But anyway, around the house we go. And this is the 2 weeks left of wood, more or less, that I had left over last year, but I'm going to burn this first. Because I ran out last year around the middle of February, and that's kind of a mixed bag there. There's quite a bit of walnut in that. But up here, here's what's left of the 2 trees I cut off my friend's property. I got that right there, and a few other pieces over here. But anyway, this is where I was stacking a little last year. This is all maple, and there's some what do you call it, crab apple in this, which actually smells really good. So anyway, this is probably my emergency stash in case we have another 3 or 4 day power outage like we did last year. Pile that I showed you momentarily ago has now been transferred over to here. So I am standing here with a rather oversized cup of hot chocolate, and I am smugly regarding the results of this morning's industry. This is the life. Quite a few BTUs there. Like I say, I got a late start this year because it was a while before I realized that all the overtime we were getting at work with all the staff cuts from the economy slowing down has that all that overtime was keeping me from cutting any wood, so I didn't even get started getting it from Richard until the midsummer or something like that. So fortunately his wood's all seasoned and everything, so it's good. Anyway, this pile is basically 4 of the small dump truck loads that Richard brings me. That is roughly the equivalent of about 12 loads in this truck, like I was doing last year. That, of course, is the one that tows our camper, and it's a good buddy of mine. Anyway, there's except for the other stuff I showed you a minute ago, we'll start on this, and I'll probably come down and video the day I start and tell you what the date is, and then we'll see how long it lasts. Okay folks, it's October 29th of 2010, and we are starting up the first fire of the year. Here's some fire. We're watching a WVU game as they play the University of Connecticut, and this is the beginning of the first fire. So you can't feel the heat, but boy, I can. Okay, just letting it get started. Okay, today's November 12th, 2010, and so far we still have not used any of the wood that we bought. We're still working on some of the old stuff from around the other side of the house. We kept a couple of weeks of firewood available in case there was an emergency from last year, and when we went camping we even ended up with a couple of bundles of wood that we brought home with us, plus a piece of wood I picked up at one of our favorite campsites, which is number 39 at Pipestem. And anyway, so we haven't even started this, and it's coming up on the middle of November. This week it's like 70 degrees during the day all week, so we haven't even been burning the fire this week at all. So anyway, that's an update, and I guess we'll just have to get on from here. Today is November 27th, 2010. Here is an empty fire ring that we use for the last stage of the firewood before it goes in the house. You can see I put my little plastic thing on top of it to keep the rain off of it. But anyway, I just took the last of the wood out of it and put it inside. We keep it in a 15-gallon crock so that it's up to temperature before we put it in the stove. But I have already used, I was hoping to get to the 1st of December, but it looks like we're a little late, or a little early, should I say. And we are going to have, it's time to fill up the fire ring with some of the wood that we purchased over the summer. We've already used up the supply that we had left over from last year for emergencies. I had to go first. It was mostly walnut, and there was a little bit of poplar, which you see 2 or 3 pieces left down there. That's real good for starting fire, so I'm leaving it there. Now we're going to start burning oak and hickory, that stuff that we bought. So anyway, fortunately we didn't make it to December 1st, but I think we're going to be okay. So if it's like this and we already ran out of the other, then it's time to use the real wood. Okay folks, here is the first official fire ring of the year, full of the wood that I bought from Richard, which is mostly oak and hickory, and it seems to be pretty heavy, so I think it's going to burn even better than the walnut does that I've been burning up to this point. So like you say, we've got enough inside to keep us going for a while, but I might throw a piece or two in there next just to get a feel for how it's going to burn. But anyway, the real firewood burning season has begun. Yay!